It's a bad evening. Welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast with your host, Greg Tompsett, and my contractually obligated partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. We just watched the New York Jets defeat the Buffalo Bills 20-17. How you doing?
I'm not great. I contacted my legal team. They said I couldn't get out of this episode.
Yes,
I was
correct.
required to be here for the sponsorship, so I'm here doing my job. Yeah, no, this sucks, man. I've had the time change sucked this morning, and then this game sucked on top of it. I'm ready for this day to end, but first we got to get through this fantastic, exciting episode of the Cover One Buffalo post game show. So I'm expecting this chat here to be peaceful and polite,
reasonable,
very reasonable going into this
very
game. Actually, you know what, Greg? I'm usually that guy that's saying like, "Hey, let's pump the brakes. Let's be reasonable. Go for it today, guys. Rip into the chat. Go on Twitter. Let's get some anger out here. Let's vent."
Yeah, and we'll go through some of our normal format today, but we're just as angry as you guys are. This is unacceptable.
This might be a therapy session.
Yeah, completely unacceptable. This is a team that the Buffalo Bills were better than from top to bottom. They played, there are some individuals who played well. Stephon Diggs had a good game. Von Miller had a good game. I'll even say the defense as a whole was okay. You hold the NFL opponent to 20 points.
That's what I was saying.
That's a doable game. The run defense, Jaquan Johnson had a pretty bad game. I don't think Tremaine Edmonds had a great game. The tackling wasn't amazing, but
although I will say Tremaine Edmonds had a legitimate interception taken away from him. Finally got a splash play, the splash play we've all been waiting for, taken away from him. No excuses, but yeah, some individual performances. But Greg, this felt like 2019 Buffalo Bills sitting back wide. I feel like we just dialed back the clocks and watched a 2019 game where the defense, yeah, they had some flaws and some vulnerabilities, but they did enough. And you just needed your team to score more than 20 points. You couldn't do it.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't think the coaching staff was great today. I get it that they hurried up to throw the flag, but that replay certainly looked like it could have been overturned that Tremaine Edmonds had the interception. I would have loved to have seen McDermott throw the flag there. I know they hurried up to run the play and that ended up, they actually screwed themselves and came up short, but then they went on a freaking, fake fourth down. But ultimately, today is about Josh Allen. The Buffalo Bills lost because of Josh Allen. Josh Allen cost them this game, period. Like it's, we are avid defenders of Josh Allen. We have talked, even excused last week that, it was ugly, but he was still the MVP and they were in that game and winning by 10 because of him. Today, he contributed with his legs. He made a couple nice plays with his legs.
You're not in the game either. It's like torn right here both ways. But
he kept them in the game with his legs. His decision making and his throwing today were like rookie year, second year stuff. It was terrible.
It was a reversion back to the 2019 season for me in so many ways. It's a mix to me of blaming Josh Allen and Ken Dorsey as well, because I thought Ken Dorsey came out, and we'll talk about the drives as we go, pretty well, but then it just seemed he wasn't able to get anyone else really involved in this offense or get any type of, we saw the one play where he had a tight end leak, like more of that stuff where you're finding ways to get people open, because this is a good defense. You can't just drop back and let Josh Allen try to pick them apart. That's what they were doing, and just this isn't the defense to do that against. And I expected a little bit more, especially out of the second half, from Ken Dorsey to kind of put some new wrinkles in. And so I think it was a mix of Josh Allen played terrible, made bad decision making, but then Dorsey didn't do him any favors on the other side.
Yeah. Some of the overall numbers here are sketchy. The Bills had 317 yards. The New York Jets had 310. That's not going to do it. No. They, passed for 183 and ran for 134. They gave up 136 and ran for 174. They played even with the New York Jets, and the New York Jets made plays when it mattered to be able to win this game. Josh Allen ended up 18 of 34 for 205 yards and 2 interceptions with no passing touchdowns. He did rush for 86 and rush for 2 touchdowns. But this wasn't like a game that we, oh man, I can't believe they screwed us over. Like the Jets just played a clean game. One, big play from Von Miller is the only turnover that they created, and not much else, from a big play standpoint on defense.
The one
Stephon
that was
Diggs had
taken
a good
away.
game.
Well, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Again, Tremaine Edmonds did have an interception stolen from him. Nobody else really in the run game did much. We ran the ball 12 other times, and it was 12 carries for 39 yards, 3 yards a clip. And then another no-show, a really rough game from Gabe Davis.
That's
two
like 2 weeks in a row
drops.
now.
At least one of the interceptions was a miscommunication. I'm still putting on Josh. He looked bad, but I mean, he expected Gabe Davis to be in a different spot. He shouldn't have thrown it.
Yeah, that was a
but
yeah.
Just ugly performance all around. Tyler Bass missed a makeable field goal that obviously, when you lose by 3, could have been helpful to
55.
have that.
That was a 55. I mean, I'm not going to get too hard on Bass. That's the longest attempt of his season so far. Want to see him make it. I trust him to make those kicks.
Oh yeah. But just spreading around. So I got some sprinkles of blame that lots of people can get.
We got a big sprinkle to put on top of this offensive line.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a problem, Greg, that Josh Allen has covered up for the last year and a half in this offensive line. We've talked about it
today. 5 sacks.
And it was way worse than that. Yeah. It was so much worse than that.
8 more quarterback hits.
Chris, you're back there producing for us. I want to keep an eye on the potential injury to Josh's arm there towards the end of the game.
Pain in the elbow. Didn't want to talk about it a lot. That doesn't sound great.
I don't like that. But no, it just seemed he never had a spot to throw from. He didn't, even when he didn't have pressure, like Greg Cosell had said about Zach Wilson, he was perceiving pressure that wasn't even there in this game and getting out of the pocket again. Reverting a little bit back. Yeah, reverting a little bit back to that 2019. I think he felt he had to put too much on his shoulders and was really pressing. And so I think the trickle effect of why this game got the way it was the Bills have not addressed the offensive line in the way that they should. Josh Allen has made that unit look better for a year and a half. And so we haven't really talked about it. And it kind of came back to bite us a little bit today. And I think that was when we break down this film and stuff, you're going to look at that offensive line, and losing the battle in the trenches really on both sides of the ball is where this game got lost.
Yeah, spot on. I expected the defensive line to make a huge impact, and they made a few plays, but not consistent pressure. They gave Zach Wilson way too much time. And good on the Jets. They ran a lot of, double and 3 tight end sets, a lot of max protect, a lot of stuff to be able to put themselves in the position to be able to do those things. And, ultimately they weren't able to make the plays. Again, I'm not putting this on the defense. 20 points in the NFL, you should win that game. They could have done better. Don't get me wrong. That last drive, giving up those run plays, the tackling was not
the amount of clock that got taken off.
Yeah, we'll go through some of those pieces. I didn't even look at time of possession. Obviously
that last drive was like almost 7-minute drive for the Jets to just eat the clock there. You can't do that.
6 minutes and 10 seconds.
Right here, our guy Chris via Dan Fetz. Quote, "It's tough to win in this league when you're playing a good team and your quarterback plays like shit." That's a quote from Josh Allen, and I could have quoted that for Josh Allen. At least he's being honest.
Next play, or he did get asked about it. He's had slight pain, but I'll get through it. So hopefully that's accurate.
Yeah.
Let's go through some of the movements here of where we go, and it started right off. Like we had a feel for what this was going to be like right off the bat, because we go down. Josh gets a huge rip right off the bat.
Well, the kicker slipped right to start the game. The Jets kicker slips the ball. The Bills get the ball at like the 45.
45 gives us the ball at the 45-yard line, freebie, plus a 42-yard throw right off the bat to Stephon Diggs.
You're in the red zone.
Roasted Sauce Gardner, and I was like, oh my god, we're gonna boat race him. This is gonna be fantastic. Then an incompletion to Cook, not a huge deal, and then comes back and like Josh. We do the bootleg rollout, which we use all the time, very regular play. He's reading back from left to right and reading the field. And when he decides, oh, okay, I need to go to Knox, it's almost like he decided before he even looked, and then just didn't expect Jordan Whitehair to be there, because he threw that ball directly to Jordan Whitehair.
Yeah. And like a delicate lollipop pass
to
him too.
Nice,
as soft as
feathered.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it just didn't seem like Josh. Clearly, he expected Knox to be somewhere else. But to your point, was he looking? Because man, on the replay, he's Whitehead standing right there in the lane, and it doesn't even look like even if Knox was where Josh thought he was going to be, that's still an interception. Whitehead was still in between the defender or between Knox and the ball. And so that's just an inexcusable one. And in the red zone, like these are the things that Bills have prided themselves on, red zone. And what the Bills want is to get Josh rolling out to his right in the red zone. Like that's where you want to be. And for him to make that mistake on that type of play, that's exactly what you're looking for. And to come away with a mistake there is just, that's no good. But then the Bills were able to go and get the ball right back. They stopped the Jets offense. So I still thought, okay, let's settle in and get back to the boat racing that you were going to do. Yeah. And the Bills did. They put together a really nice drive. Diggs on a slant. They had a couple third downs that they converted, started seeing the Josh Allen designed runs.
This is where the check down to Singletary was a really nice one. Singletary did a nice job after that.
Yep. You got there was a really nice play design where Knox leaked out and ended up getting the Bills into the red zone. There was like a 9-yard gain there. That was a beautiful play design. You had it was a 3rd and 10, and then Allen scrambles, come short of the touchdown, but it just felt like, okay, this defense is good, but Josh's abilities with his legs and being able to get the ball to Diggs is just going to break him down. It's going to be too much.
I'll even say when Rankins swiped the ball out of Josh's hand, I was like, oh my God. And like, I thought that was going to be like the unraveling thing. Like, oh my God, we're going to give it to him again. And when he picked it up and kind of minimized the damage and then hit ended up coming back with the touchdown run right after that, I was like, oh, right. Okay. All right. We got our stuff together here.
Settle it in.
We're doing okay.
And that drive went 13 plays, 67 yards, and took off 7 minutes. And that's like a typical, okay, the Bills are back. Like we're gonna do some nice stuff today.
And I think good on the Jets. They answered back here with the one that kind of told you that they were going to be in this game and it wasn't going to be just the boot on the neck kind of game that some people were hoping for and that how I predicted. And being able to go through, they come back 7 plays, 49 yards, get the field goal.
That ends the first quarter, right?
Yeah,
pretty much.
Right there to it. But nothing big. Got a decent chunk right up the back to Wilson. But
you got that Jaquan Johnson starting off. Not great. Not a great day for Jaquan Johnson.
One of many times where he saw where to be, was trying to get to the sideline and just doesn't have the speed that we're used to from Micah and Poyer. He can't play the angles that he sees.
It's not even, it's a mix of if you have lacking athleticism and size, then you have to take it angles. You have to make up for that. He was taking bad angles and doesn't have the athleticism and size to make up for it. Yeah. And you saw that on display a number of times, and the Jets really attacked that. But then on this one, it was a 5-yard gain, but then he gets a 15-yard face mask to give them basically an explosive play right out of the gate.
Yeah, I'm fully ready for Dean Marlowe next week.
Yeah.
All the way ready for that.
Yeah.
And then, so, okay, it's 7-3, we're getting the ball back. The Bills, run the ball a couple times nice for, a good chunk for Cook right on first down. He converts for it on second down.
How about Cook getting some early burn in this game? Yeah. And it seemed like they were like in mid-drive going back between Singletary and Cook, which I liked early in this game.
Yeah, they're trying to, I think, get him into the game and test it out, knowing that likely it'll be Hines more coming forward. Right. But here then, multiple incompletions, ended up the one on 3rd and 10, Gabe Davis, it hits him right in the face. Like the ball's right there, it goes through both hands, hits him in the face mask, bounce off. Would have been an easy completion. Not easy, I take that. Would have been a completion.
Yes.
It would have been a tough catch, but that's a catch NFL receivers are supposed to make.
It's a hard catch. Josh put a lot on that. That ball was a strike right in the middle. Yep. That's a hard catch to make, to come back and make it, but that is what we're supposed to expect from Gabe Davis. If he's not going to be a guy that's going to get 6, 7, 8 targets a game and do what Diggs does and catch slants and be productive in that way, then God damn it, you need to make those plays on 3rd and longs and make the big plays. Like if that's all you are is a big splash play guy, you need to catch them when they come your way. And he's been MIA here for 2 weeks. That Odell noise in the background. We've been looking at the slot position a lot with Odell and saying like, well, maybe he could take over Isaiah McKenzie. I'm seeing snaps and targets just in wide receiver in general right now where we need help.
Yep. Absolutely. An area of need. They trade, they go back and forth. So the Bills punt, pretty good one. Actually that Braxton Berrios, like tricked the coverage unit and ran all the way over on the right side, and the ball was actually way over to the left, and it let it bounce like 1 yard into the end zone. I think if they had been able to track the ball, they could have downed it.
Back to that point when we're talking about that interception, the first interception, Eric Turner tweeting, I thought Dawson was what Alan's saying. I thought Dawson was outside by himself, and obviously he wasn't. That's a quote from Alan. And then he says, Alan 100% thought Whitehead was sucked inside and probably couldn't see him because of the defensive end. So
yeah, so
it's easy for us from the broadcast angle for sure,
but you know,
didn't see him. Didn't see him.
Gross. Then comes back and you know, they have a nice punt that gets it all the way down to the 7-yard line. And the Bills put together what is, you know, I guess I'll ceremoniously call this my Uncle Jumbo's drive of the game.
West Herd drive of the game.
Or West Herd drive of the I needed Uncle Jumbo's instead of this. So ultimately, you know, they put together a 9-play, 93-yard touchdown drive.
Yeah.
You get a nice mix of some runs, a couple passes.
Lots of digs.
Really start to get Diggs involved on this one. 3 catches on the drive for, I think, 38 yards.
Yeah, it was like 7, 14, 17. He was just chunking them together.
And then had, you know, where for some reason the Jets were the only team that doesn't know that when we have that empty side to the left that we're going to run quarterback sweep back that way. I can see it coming every single time that we line up and do it. And I'm like, don't you guys know what we're about to do? Because we're going to run right there. And there was nobody there. And it was 1-on-1 with Roger Saffold and Jordan Whitehair. And they just, or maybe Sauce Gardner. I don't even know which one.
I don't remember who it was on the play, but can we praise Mitch Morse for being out there with nobody to block and still just
trotting down the field,
trying not to look bad and looking athletic as Josh Allen zooms by him at 20 miles an hour. I love that hustle out there by Mitch Morse, blocking nobody, but
so
ultimately going hard.
Yeah, ultimately the Jets probably deserve the West Herd drive of the game, but I feel weird awarding that.
I'm never going to give it to another team now. That's not in our contract with West Herd.
Correct. I'm not obligated to give it to the actual best drive of the game. I'm obligated to give it to the best Bills drive of the game.
Correct.
So this was it. 9 plays, 93 yards. Put us, and also in fairness, it put us up 14-3, and it felt like, okay, all right, we got our stuff together here. This is what I expected. It's not pretty, but we're up 14-3. Okay, we can kind of, go through what we need to here. And, maybe besides the final one that soaked all the clock off, the answer from the Jets, 6 minutes, 13 plays, 75 yards to come back. And, it was one of those where like in my mind, I had kind of pivoted to like, oh, we're going to be okay. So like, I wasn't concerned with the drive as it was going. And then I'm like, what the hell? How do they keep? Oh, and then like you had the shot, in the middle to Wilson for 24 yards. And then all the rest of it was
that one
5 yards, 8 yards, 7 yards.
So it was a 3rd and 1. The play before that, Taron Johnson comes in on the run blitz, gets lit up in the backfield. Yeah. He has to come off for a play for a stinger. Saren Neal comes on.
Saren Neal.
But that's not even so much the problem. Eric and I were talking about this in the DMs because it was another run blitz on this. It was a first down or something. It was a run blitz. And you had Saren Neal 1-on-1 with Garrett Wilson in the slot. And you're going run blitz and you're putting him in man coverage. That is a mistake by Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott, in my opinion. Taron Johnson comes off the field and you're throwing Saren Neal in, and he's lined up across from Garrett Wilson. Let's get into zone, guys. Like, let's play against the odds. Garrett Wilson, right off the line of scrimmage, took a step to the outside, and Saren Neal's whole body moved like 2 yards. And I saw it. Garrett Wilson's hand went right up immediately. 24-yard gain. That's the type of.
Apparently, Aaron was very upset about the game, so he's dropped. I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. But yeah, that kind of 24-yard gain.
I didn't touch anything, and I got booted.
I thought you were so mad.
No, it said an error occurred. Yeah, I was so mad that Saren Neal got left in man coverage. But yeah,
they did shift it all the way into Bills territory on a play where they could have got themselves out of it. But even beyond that, they
Hamlin
still
had
let
the big
up.
3rd and 1 stop, and then they kept going for it. You just couldn't stop the short yardage.
Yeah, ultimately then, and I will say kudos to them to be able to free up Uzoma on the play that we use all the time on the leak and the bootleg, and they had him. That was a nice play. Steve here asking, what lever can we pull to open up more money to lock in OBJ? We actually can't. The money we have is how much we have, but they can structure deals to be creative. I put out a tweet, when I talk about not likely to be earned incentives because he hasn't played this year, you could set incentives for next year that are at 25 catches or 300 yards or like 3 touchdowns. And if he only plays like 4 regular season games for us, whatever we set those incentives at, they will be next year considered not likely to be earned because he didn't achieve them this year. So if you do that, you can then give him really big incentives at like $2 million for each of those, and you wouldn't pay them until 2024. So you could sign him to a deal for this year and next year with really low cap numbers for this year and next year, and not give him the money until 2024. And you could also do some void years in 24, 25, 26 to stretch it out and give him a little bit of a signing bonus now, plus a salary now, another option bonus next year, and spread that out. So you could give him to where, hey, you're getting the whatever he's going to get right now, $8 or $10 million. I don't know what teams are going to be able to give. We can get creative to be able to do that and structure it, and just be able to, try to get a creative way to put that together.
Yeah, I mean, I will also buy him some wings.
Yeah. Bean can figure it out.
Yeah.
We don't need to create cap space in 2022.
I'll throw in 24 wings if OBJ signs here. So if anyone knows them, get that out there.
So, getting back here, then, they actually wrapped that up, but had 32 seconds left and all 3 timeouts. And again, we go back to, getting a couple plays. They get a 15-yarder to Davis, timeout, 17-yarder to Knox, timeout. They're sitting there at the Jets 43 with 17 seconds and a timeout left. Josh tries to check down to Singletary, which is actually a terrible play in that spot because it would have cost us our last time out.
Yeah.
Then misses Diggs. Then, where they were kind of just trying to get another chunk of yards. And I know some people are like, oh, they're playing for the field goal. Well, you're 43 yards out with 13 seconds. Yeah. Like, other than literally not a Hail Mary, but like having to just huck it deep. Like, that's not a perfect play to execute. If they took that shot on the Singletary play, where if somebody was open on like a backside dig or a deep crosser where they could have hit it and that would have got them down to say the 20-yard line with 13 seconds left, then you can take a shot. But from the 43, just the setup for it and the throw can run out the rest of the time. So
playing for a field goal, it also is not a bad thing, because if they get that field goal, we're talking about a 2020
correct
game instead of a 2017 game, and we're going into overtime, right? Yeah. Like, I don't mind playing for the field goal in that situation, especially against this defense and the way they were playing in this first half.
Yeah. So, and they set it up. Josh gets the quarterback draw, picks up the chunky yards to get it, from a 60+ yarder to just the season long for Tyler Bass. And, Bass misses his first, long field goal of the season. It was actually a decent kick. It just missed just outside, but it curved out as he went. There was no wind. It was just on him. Yep. That was purely on him to be able to do it. And what could have been a 17-10 is now kind of a deflating end where they had the long scoring drive and
with a chance to double dip.
Yeah, and have the chance to double dip now. So, as we pivot into the third quarter here, it opens up with a really long, sustained drive that was incredibly frustrating.
Well, this should have been the drive where you had the turnover, right? Yeah. They came out and it was like the second play. Taryn deflects the ball and Tremaine Edmonds comes up to it. He clearly takes it away from Conklin, has the interception, and somehow they rule it simultaneous possession and give it to the Jets. I don't like to complain about those types of things that happen in a game and harp on it, but in a game that's this close, Greg, for you to not walk away with that interception is really the difference in the game to me.
Yeah.
Especially when what happens after this, right? Like, not on this drive, but what happens in this game later, to know that you could have walked away there in good field position.
Yeah. So, being in that spot, they keep the ball somehow, get him into they try to hurry up and run the play at that point. I would have liked McDermott to throw a challenge flag, but I don't really know, second half timeouts are super valuable. You don't want to be in a spot like that. They rushed up to run the play. So it's kind of hard to know, what the options were. And I don't know how likely that kind of thing is to turn it over when it comes into, hey, what happened under the pile. There is a play as Edmonds is coming down, where it certainly looks like he has the ball, I don't know if that spot when they can't see as you go down to the ground, if you, whatever the terms they use, like, did you complete the catch through the ground?
Yeah.
Did you survive through the ground? The fact that you couldn't really see that as you got to the bottom there, my guess is we all would have been pissed off that they said the play stands and they couldn't overturn it. Even though everyone, I think with any logical, view of it, knows that they did intercept the ball and he did have that ball.
And if you lose that timeout, the Bills clearly needed those timeouts later in the game to even have a shot at tying this thing, right? Yeah. So obviously those timeouts were at a premium in the second half. It's a hard one. I think a lot of Bills fans assume that it's an automatic overturn, but I think you're right that there's, I see these happen all the time where I think it's an automatic overturn, and then the ruling on the field stands or whatever it is, and so then you're out of a timeout. Sean McDermott, you can say what you want about this team and how they were prepared for today, but they have processes in place for some of this stuff. He had people in his ear telling him not to throw that challenge flag on that one.
So they continue their drive, what ended up being an insane 14-play, 52-yard drive.
Featuring
all
a
the way
fake
down,
punt.
Yeah, with a fake punt that gets converted, all the way down into the red zone. Another swing pass to Berrios on 3rd and 2, where Jaquan Johnson simply couldn't make the angle and got beat to the sideline. Then we had the weird 12-minute delay from the sky cam breaking.
Why on Bills games? Why is it always Bills games has this weird stuff? What are we doing?
Super weird. And then you get a play where it kind of gave me a little bit of energy back. Von Miller has a delayed rush, ends up zooming around the corner, gets a strip sack. AJ Epinesa picks it up. They got the ball back. The Bills now have the ball at the, I think it was back like the Jets 29 for the spot where Von stripped it from. So, hey, we got a little something here. We got the ball back. We're up 14-10. We didn't let them double dip. We're going to be in good shape now.
Greg, I had it written down here. This was about, in my opinion, during that part of the game, I was like, for sure, this is the drive of the game. This is the turning point in this game. Von, worth every single penny that he's been paid, makes the play that you need to get your team back.
In that critical spot.
In an absolutely critical spot. Big time players make big plays on 3rd down when this other team's driving to go ahead against you. He made the play that was needed. And then the Bills offense just totally unraveled. Quinnen Williams with a huge sack right out of the gate on the first drive. And then the second play, I think it was the second play, right? Was there any other plays in between that? The interception to Sauce Gardner.
The first play was the sack by Quinnen Williams.
Yeah.
Where Josh, I don't want to get into like Sam Darnold seeing ghost territory, but
it wasn't great.
You could tell he was a little frantic.
Yep.
And then on the next play, this one, at least we heard the comments about the Knox one that he pivoted over. Maybe you couldn't see the guy because of the tight end or because of the tackle, and just made the read and read it wrong and made the throw. On this one, again, Gabe Davis wasn't even really in the picture.
This was
right to Sauce Gardner.
This was 100% a miscommunication. And Davis was right, in my opinion, of the broadcast view. We'll have to watch it back on the All 22. But it looks like because of the way the DB is leveraging him, he kicks to the outside where he's open on a post route. And Josh just throws it right at the point where Sauce Gardner's just sitting there on the inside. Even if Diggs squatted on that route, again, similar to the Knox thing, Sauce was still right there. It just seemed like he threw that one up.
I don't know if he was pressing. I don't know if he was trying to just make a play. I don't there's no that's again, Josh, rookie year, second year stuff to be able to, figure out hey, you just can't do that. You have to be able to go there and we'll see when we can look at it is, did Davis break the wrong way? Did Davis make the right read and Josh didn't read? Like you said, I don't think it's crazy. Eric here with the comment, this one looked like Allen expected something different from Davis once he cleared Sauce, maybe expecting Davis to sneak in behind Sauce. Either way, Allen was running out of time looking at the line of scrimmage and versus the depth of the O-line. And
but with that length of Sauce Gardner, you're not getting that ball.
And ultimately, that's fine. Throw the ball away. You still have 3rd down. You can still throw the ball away and try to, live to fight another day. But throwing it up the way that he did, Sauce Gardner's an elite player. Was despite getting roasted on the first play, he came back and certainly had the last laugh here.
Yeah. And this is where, to me, before we get into this drive, this is what's so frustrating to me because I do think the defense is going to get a lot of criticism today, and they should in terms of tackling and some of the run defense stuff. But when your defense gets that third down strip sack fumble and returns it to you, and this is what you repay them with a sack and then an immediate interception, like that's a slap in the face. Not a lot of defenses can recover from. Like when you get that, you're at least should get multiple first downs and give your defense a chance to regroup. But no, this was worst case scenario of giving back to the defense, which is exactly why I felt like 2019 all over again. But yeah, this was a backbreaker here if you want to take us through this drive.
Yeah, real quick, Stephon Diggs trying to stick up for Josh, saying he didn't play like shit at all. He had a couple bad plays. It's okay, Stephon. He played like shit. So they answer back. They get the ball here. Sauce picks it off, runs back a little bit. They have the ball inside the red zone already, which is a terrible spot to be able to put the defense in. So right off the bat, you even get, Garrett Wilson, is running with the ball, fumbles it, but falls on his own fumble. And is able to pick it up, dives for it pretty well. And then, incompletion, then Zach Wilson scrambles for 5 yards. And then, on the next one, quick dump off to James Robinson goes in. And, it was one of those where it kind of felt like they were reeling and put in a bad spot. I still would have loved somebody to step up and make a play, but that one, them starting with
that's
the ball
a tough spot
on the 19 is a really tough spot.
You're in a tough spot. You thought you got off the field and now you're back here in the red zone already. Really difficult spot to be in. Real quick, spin 0481 here. Can we stop playing prevent defense all game? Start challenging wide receivers completely against pass rush? No. They cannot. And the Jets actually play very similar style defense to the Bills. And their defensive line got home and they had a better job in coverage and they tackled better. Ultimately, it's okay here to be mad right now. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the Bills defense has been really good playing
zone and playing cover 2 isn't playing prevent. They're not dropping way out of the picture. They're not.
No. We're playing like quarters coverage, cover 3, stuff like that. And you're
stuff that's worked all year. Now,
it works.
I will say, are there things that we need to do, especially when we get Trey back?
Yes.
Are there things that we need to do that we can't do the exotic disguise coverages that end up still being normal cover 2 and quarters and normal combinations of coverage that we can't do as much anymore? Because now it's hopefully Damar Hamlin and Dean Marlowe and not Damar Hamlin and Jaquan Johnson. But we can't do the things that we could when it was Poyer and Hyde. Maybe there are some tweaks that we need to do.
Sure.
But the way that that's set up, it's not a matter of, we need to now turn into like some crazy blitz heavy defense. That's just not where we're going to be.
No.
So again, we let the Jets take the lead, which
and the third quarter, that third quarter, insane.
Every Jets drive was a huge chunk of time.
Yeah. The Bills only had the ball for that Quentin Williams sack and the interception, and then a small bit of this drive here into the third quarter. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, and that's what the Jets wanted. The Jets wanted to reduce their number of possessions, keep the ball out of the Bills' hands because they knew more chances was a bad thing. But it is what it is. So they come back, put together a little bit of a drive here. Devin Singletary gets a chunk of yards. Josh makes a scramble. Josh makes another scramble. It really is kind of putting it on himself, and we're doing dump offs or Josh running the ball.
That 3rd and 6 to Cook was real sweet. Play design, get him on the outside with the ball. I love seeing that.
Yeah, that was a nice setup, and ultimately get down there where they take a couple deep shots in a row. After Cook only gets 1 yard on first down, I'd love to continue converting there because you are sustaining drives, and this is where some of the things I kind of felt like Josh was trying to win the game on every throw. And
you're still a long field goal from there, Greg. Like, why are we taking shots? I get it, take a shot. That's okay. But like, you also want to, like you said, give your defense a break, get some of these drives to sustain, get in the red zone again. I didn't get that continuously going for shots there.
Take your shot on the 2nd and 1. They ran the ball with it. Take your shot. You had 2nd and 1. Take your shot there where you still have 3rd down to convert. Don't take your shot on 2nd and 9, and then you have to go again.
3rd and 9. Yeah.
Don't even try to convert. They try to sneak Nyheim Hines out there, which all right, I kind of get. You're trying to be sneaky, and he's got speed up the sideline, and you have a safety on him. And Josh doesn't make a good throw. Like that's a throw we've seen him make multiple times, and that would have been a touchdown. Hines had a step on him.
It's a 2019 Josh Allen throw, overthrowing guys deep. That's what he would do.
Missing it deep. Now, luckily, Bass comes in here and converts. Cliff with a good comment here. Jets are well coached and disciplined, and they have talent everywhere. The Bills are better, but they can't just show up in all phases and beat good teams. They have to. The Jets and Miami are good teams now. They have to show up and convert and execute. And they're better than both those teams, but not by enough that they can just show up and go through the motions. It's spot on, Cliff. So here, okay, they tied the game, kind of would have liked them to take the lead, but feeling pretty decent about it. And then the big one, and this is where you probably could, have given the defense the drive of the game,
Yeah, I
was
almost did here.
they hold the Jets to 3 and out and
Yeah.
get a really quick 3 and out. They're able to make some, some plays on their quick incompletion. I think it was DeMar Hamlin and Kyer Elam who had coverage on Mims, where Terrell Bernard and DeMar Hamlin who knock it away. And then, quick tackle on Carter, and then another incompletion with some pressure collapsing the pocket. And Wilson has to throw the ball away over Conklin's head. And that was a huge 3 and out to be able to get the ball back quickly.
3 plays, 2 yards, 1 minute off the clock. Like you couldn't ask for anything better after tying it up. This should have been, if the Bills are, who we thought they are, this should have been the killer instinct kicks in now. You've got them down. The game isn't going how you wanted to, but now's your opportunity to make up for it and get this game and take it over.
Yeah. And, they even get a free 15 yards from like a bonehead guy pushing Taiwan Jones on the gunner. So we started at 27 instead of back at our 12, and, get a couple plays. Like we got a little something going. We get like 3 plays in a row, or 3 out of 4 to Isaiah McKenzie, and get to where, we're right there. And then again, take a sack where Josh, that was another bootleg leak where they were ready that time, and they had Jermaine Johnson there. Yeah. If he steps through there and doesn't get tripped up, I think Knox was open for a nice chunky yards.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And it would have been one of those leak plays where we'd had an awesome highlight, and he just tripped up Josh's ankle as he tried to, kind of hop through it. And
there's not a lot of people that I've seen be able to close off an edge on Josh Allen. He almost always gets around the corner, and he just ran into a guy that was in good position and just got he got him by the toes on that one and just tripped him up. I'm not used to seeing that, Greg. That was one where it was like, wait, I just always expect Josh to win that edge and either get around for a scramble or throw it. And just, he didn't that time. You could see the frustration finally build up on his face after that.
Yeah. And then you get to, now he's trying to push it and takes a couple deep shots again, 2nd and 14, 3rd and 14.
That 3rd and 14, I do think that if we look back, I think there could have been a flag. I'm not mad the refs held it because it's a big spot and the Bills were the road team, but looked a little grabby to me on that 3rd and 14. I would have liked to. We didn't see a lot of flags in this game either.
Correct.
So I'm not going to be mad about it.
Oh, well, they threw one flag I'm going to bring up in a minute. Yeah. And then Sam Martin actually has a gorgeous punt, 50 yards down to the 4-yard line. Absolutely fantastic. Pins them at the 4, feeling pretty good. Like, okay, we pinned him at the 4. There was 8 minutes left. So 8 minutes left. We got all 3 timeouts, pin them down at the 4-yard line. This is a perfect spot. Heck, give me like a strip sack here, win the game on a defensive play. Give me a fumble. Give me a quick 3 and out. And they let the Jets run the ball on 9 straight plays. And they ran the ball for 9 straight plays, all the way from their own 4-yard line for 9 yards, 7 yards, 16 yards, 17 yards. Then we had a penalty and gave them a free 5 yards, 4 yards, 15 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, up until their first pass when it was all the way in their own red zone. And then Zach Wilson did have a nice pass to Denzel Mims, but all the way down. And they let them run 6 minutes off the clock in that stretch before all the way down to the 2-minute warning, where now you're in a spot where we had to strategically use our timeouts just to not let them milk the clock all the way down and kick a field goal as time ran out.
Yeah.
This one killed me.
This is like, I would say 85% of this loss, in my opinion, is on the offensive side of the ball.
Yep.
Offensive line, Josh Allen.
Whatever you want to give the O-line and Josh Allen.
Combination.
85 sounds right.
Yeah, and then the rest is this drive for the defense. Right, honestly, because the defense really played fine up until this point. If you're holding a team to 17 points, you got to win in the NFL. I don't care if there's a drive or 2 that looked bad or a play or 2 that looked bad.
And if they
had the turnover, taken away from them. And then you get this. What I will say, even as bad of a drive as this was for the Bills defense, they did get the stop to at least give the Bills an opportunity, because with as potent as this Bills offense is, you would think any amount of time left gives you an opportunity to at least be in this game still.
Well, Von
But
Miller makes a great play on first down. You get a 2-yard loss for the tackle for loss. Then Wilson scrambles around for 6 and actually made me nervous. I thought
It was
he
like
was
he
gonna
was
score
pretty
for
close.
a second there. He almost carried Jaquan Johnson into the end zone.
Yeah.
And then
my guy.
And then DeMar Hamlin comes on a great blitz, gets a sack to get off the field. We have to use
almost
all
got the
3
ball
timeouts.
out there too. They were very close to stripping that ball out.
He swiped at it. We have to use all 3 timeouts, but we at least stop the bleeding at a minute 45. They kick the field goal, take the lead 20-17, and now it's okay. It's a minute 43. We don't have any timeouts, but a minute 43 in this offense, only down 3.
Just got to get in range.
I'll take this every day of the week. Like, okay, you have to get 3 points, but you have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis normally. And that you got to be able to make a play. And right off the bat, Josh rips it to Stephon Diggs down the sideline for 26 yards. They're right at midfield immediately, actually technically even into Jets territory. And apparently there was a hold by Dean Dawkins and literally never showed us. We never saw the penalty. I have no idea if it was a good call or a bad call. This broadcast was horrible all day. And to have a game impacting holding call where you haven't called anything all day and you've let the guys play. Like you said, there was some ticky-tack stuff that they could have done. I don't mind when you let everybody play and you're not calling pass interference either way. You're not calling holding either way. Let the guys play. To call one, a minute 43 left, no timeouts, game impacting play, and now you're going to throw your first flag of the game? What the hell?
Yeah, you can't have it in those types of situations, in my opinion. Even if there was like a small bit of holding, it probably wasn't changing the outcome of that play. I don't think you can have it in that situation. Just like I think there was more defensive holding later in this series, and I wouldn't want them to throw those flags either. Like in this moment where it's down to the final minute and you have a game, I'm not saying to let anything egregious happen. No tackling wide receivers down the field. But if there's some physicality to the game that's kind of on borderline questionable, you let them play through this and get the best results. You don't want the ref to take something away from you. And it did feel like that, because it did feel that Diggs throw, man. I know my house, we felt like there was some momentum to get into field goal range at that point. You could see the line was only like 15 yards away to get back into Tyler Bass's field goal range there. And it just felt totally deflated once that came back and you couldn't get anything else going.
Yeah. We'll see some, I'm sure I just watched one replay of it that kind of cuts off. And I mean, he's blocking and has him by the frame, but it's certainly not like an egregious, crazy hold or anything like that. So
bottom line, it shouldn't come down to it.
Sure. Oh yeah. Right. I had a million opportunities here.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden now you're 1st and 20, now you're, putting yourselves in a really rough spot. And then Josh comes back and actually gets a chunk to Gabe Davis. Okay, we made up for a nice chunk of it. He even hurried and got the ball down, got it back. So we're now coming up there. And then he gets sacked again. And Huff comes and hits the ball. It's at a minute 36 at this point. Huff strips the ball. And at first I was like, oh my God, please make it an incomplete pass. Let the hand be coming forward so at least stop the clock and it's an incomplete pass. Nope, it was correctly called a strip sack because Huff swiped the ball before Josh started coming forward with the ball at all. It rolls back 20 freaking yards to the 14. Ryan Bates runs back to fall on it. The clock's running, and they literally lose an entire minute. And by the time they get their wits back about them, it's 3rd and 21 with 38 seconds left. And, Josh actually uncorks a bomb to Stephon Diggs, and he actually probably could have done something with it with a gorgeous, amazing throw. But that strip sack fumble, the Jets defense made the play when they had to.
Yep. That was the story of the game. Really. They just made the plays they needed to, whether it was the Jets defense or even, I think we need to give some flowers to Zach Wilson. His statistically not a fantastic day, but when their team needed a drive to be sustained, a 3rd down to be gotten, like he was making throws to keep them in it, and Josh wasn't. And we didn't make the plays.
He didn't make the boneheaded, terrible turnover that if you just flip these games around, and Josh had kind of a iffy, not amazing day, but 18 to 25 with a touchdown and no turnovers. I would have been like, all right, that's kind of ugly, but I'll take it. And you told me that, Zach Wilson was 18 to 34 for 205, no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I would have said, yeah, that sounds about right. And five sacks. Like that's the game I expected from Zach Wilson.
Yep.
And instead, that's the game Josh Allen had in that, threw 2 interceptions, even probably should have had another one. Got sacked 5 times, but not all of those were on him. The offensive line had a rough game.
Terrible day. Yeah.
But it ended in really frustrating fashion when that wasn't a Hail Mary situation. You had the ball with 1:43 with no timeouts, admittedly, but 1:43 is plenty of time to execute, and we should
and
be
we've
able
seen
to
this team do it. We've seen
that spot. And between the chat has said very fervently that it wasn't a hold, so it certainly did not look. The eyes only saw one quick view of it. It certainly did not look like a bad hold, I'll tell you that.
Right.
But the spot that they were in, they shouldn't have been in that spot. They had so many opportunities to wrap this game up, and unfortunately, Josh Allen threw multiple of them away.
Sensing pressure when it maybe wasn't as real as it was. Not doing well with the pressure that he has had, because like I said, like he has been able to make this offensive line look better or hide some of the flaws of this offensive line for the last year and a half, and he just wasn't able to do that today. It was just too much from this Jets defensive line. And again, if you flipped that script, I expected the Bills defensive line to dominate the game in the way that the Jets defensive line did, and we didn't see that either. So just totally deflating day. Somebody here had brought up there's too much pressure on Stephon Diggs, and I agree. At some point in this game, I tweeted out, it was like between Josh Allen running the ball and passes going to Stephon Diggs, it was like 177 of the 250 something yards that they had to that point. And that's great. Like Stephon Diggs is one of the best wide receivers in football, and Josh, when he's clicking, is one of the best quarterbacks in the game. And that duo, when we see all the statistics that we love of how efficient that duo is, that's fantastic. But there is going to come games in a long season where you need another player. This is what we would expect. This is the kind of game we expect Gabe Davis to really step up and make a big play. Yeah. Isaiah McKenzie had a couple of things, but there's no consistency from Isaiah McKenzie out of that slot position. The running back room was just totally inefficient today behind that offensive line. Too much pressure right now is falling back to Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. And I don't know if that's a byproduct of Ken Dorsey getting figured out a little bit, or maybe leaning into that a little bit too hard, or if the Bills just don't have the guys. Maybe Gabe Davis isn't who we think he is. And maybe he is just a guy that can make some big plays when plays break down, and he's not quite ready to be that number 2 receiver. I don't think we have a slot wide receiver right now on the roster that I feel confident in, like we've had the last few years with Cole Beasley. Not that I don't want Cole Beasley back in the building, but in terms of that consistent other option besides Stephon Diggs that you can go to. Yeah, and keep drive sustained. That's what we missed with not having Beasley here, is another guy besides Diggs to keep a drive sustained when Diggs is covered up. And we don't have it right now.
Emmanuel Sanders was a professional receiver who could get open as another option. Dawson Knox has not stepped up since his contract. We expected him to have a big game here.
Called for a big year for him.
I think that we will see, obviously, just on 2-3 days notice, 2 practices, you can't really get Nyheim Hines involved. I do think he's someone who, he actually plays slot receiver for the Colts on like 25% of his snaps, so or 27%. So he can line up as a receiver when needed, and he can also be a more strategic element as a check down, where I think there's a difference of Josh knowing, he could check down if he needed to, versus saying, hey, we now have a guy who is a, actual weapon who can come in here and do something with it. You should make sure to look for that. It's not your last alternative. You can get it to Nyheim, and let him do something with the ball. So there's going to be a couple of those that I could see, getting involved, but ultimately we need another weapon. We need another piece here to be able to do, or you need one of these other guys, Khalil Shakir to develop real fast, or Gabe Davis to figure out what the heck's going on and get back to where he needs to be, because we need one of those kind of players.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've dissected enough of this game.
I think I've met my contractual obligation.
Correct.
For this afternoon.
So my Uncle Jumbo's responsible play is not from the game. It's going to be my advice to Bills Mafia. We should all be pissed. This was a terrible game. Josh Allen played terrible. We're going to get roasted in national media for the week for, looking past things. I think somebody in the chat even put, despite Von Miller saying it all the time, we definitely blinked. We're going to get roasted. We're going to get knocked down power rankings. We are going to come back to the pack in every metric. We're going to come back to the pack and lowered in any, Super Bowl favorite odds. The one thing I will tell everyone is let this week hurt, get angry, get mad, voice your frustration. It doesn't change the season.
Yeah.
It doesn't change. They can still be the number one seed. They still are going to be the number one seed, here in, when this ends, because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over everybody else that they're playing, regardless of who wins out of KC and Tennessee. So they're still going to be in that position. They've dug themselves a hole. They probably need to run the table in the division in the remaining 4 games to be able to make sure they don't mess up any other tiebreakers. They gave up any cushion they had of kind of goofing a game later on, but they still have everything in front of them. They're still the most talented roster in the NFL.
Mhm.
Every other team has had this kind of goof up, except for Philly. I'll give them that. Philly has had an easy schedule, but they've won. They haven't had
They've taken
a
care of
game like
business.
this. They've
Yep.
taken care of business. So let it hurt. Be angry. It's okay to be frustrated, but it's not the indication on the season that it probably feels like in the moment. There's still plenty of opportunities here to be able to move forward and have an amazing season, but they do have to get some crap figured out.
Yeah, my issue right now is it's 6 quarters, right? This isn't just a game. This
Yep.
wasn't a game they came out and flopped on. This is 6 quarters now of bad play by Josh Allen, bad offensive line play. Nobody besides Stephon Diggs stepping up in terms of skill position players. That's a problem for me, right? Like that's not the issue that you would thought you would run into with this team this year. We thought that they would have an offense that was just clicking on all cylinders at all times with the way Josh Allen's played. And that the defense with the injuries and some of the issues of not having Trey White early in the year, and that would be the thing that would maybe cause some problems for this team. And again, I just keep harkening back to, it just feels like we're right back to 2019 right now in this little 6-quarter window. And hopefully this is something at the end of the season we look back at is just another small slump, which the Bills have had in every single season. They have some, whether it's November or December, they've had slumps throughout. Hopefully this is it. And again, we haven't had to have this conversation, Greg, because the Bills have done really well here to start the year, but this is the time to have some sloppy football and get it out of the way, right? You want to be playing your best football again, late December heading into January. So I was a little concerned early on in the year that the Bills were playing their best football then. They've done enough here to let me know that there's more meat on the bone here, even throughout how well they played in those first 7 games. There was meat on the bone all throughout then, but now within this last 6 quarters, there's a plentiful, bountiful amount of meat on the bone that they need to get back in the film room and get it together. But I think they do have the leadership in the building. I still trust the coaching staff. I trust the people in place here to get this turned around. I don't think this is a team that's going to let this type of thing totally unravel them, but it's gotten very serious now. You're 0-2 in the division.
Yeah,
this is serious. Now you got to win all these games. You got to win the rest of your division games this year. I don't want to have any type of close tiebreaker nonsense within this division at all. The Patriots are going to be a tougher challenge, I think, than Bills fans really want to admit, especially if this offense doesn't start to get corrected here soon. They still have a good defense. They can run the ball. Mac Jones can do what Zach Wilson did today.
He can not make mistakes and manage a game.
Yep. So you need to get this corrected and get back to the team that boat races the team you're supposed to and lives up to the Vegas spreads that they're giving you.
Yeah. And I want to clarify something. I think rightfully somebody challenged my comment about having the best roster in the NFL. When the Bills have Trey White, Matt Milano, and Jordan Poyer back, they have the best roster in the NFL. I expect all 3 of those guys to play this season and to be available down the stretch. So I think that the roster is what's the best in the NFL, not necessarily what we played today. I also expect Dean Marlowe to be the starter at safety next week against Minnesota as well.
God damn, I hope so.
So, all of a sudden next week, very literally, we could have Spencer Brown, Trey White, Nyheim Hines, Dean Marlowe, Matt Milano, Jordan Poyer, all back on the roster next week. Not all 6 of them have the same likelihood. I think Poyer might need a little bit more time than that. But all of them could play next week. All of them could play that game. And, shame on the Bills. They probably were conservative with today, thinking they could win anyways. When maybe 2 of those guys play, maybe they are able to make the play that's needed to finish this. But they get the 2 trade candidates to be able to get them integrated into the offense and defense. I think Dean Marlowe immediately is an upgrade over Jaquan Johnson. He was a liability today and a net negative.
Yep.
Dean Marlowe is not a superstar, but he can play within the scheme and not be a liability. Naheem Hines adds something to the offense with a check down and an available outlet to Josh Allen, plus a weapon out of the backfield. Trey White is an all-pro corner, and they've been very conservative, so I expect him to play at a pretty high level when he comes back. And we know Matt Milano was playing as one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Yeah. Those guys, when those players are on the field, we have the best roster in the NFL.
I got to pump my own brakes, not yours. You can run wild. The Trey White, I'm waiting.
Sure.
I think he'll come back to a good level. He'll step right in and be the best corner on the Bills roster. Yeah. I'm not anticipating all pro Trey White. I don't want fans to be frustrated if he comes back next week and they're playing against the Minnesota Vikings and going up against Justin Jefferson. Like, there's going to be reps that Jefferson he hasn't seen a football field in a year. Like, there's going to be some time that it takes to get back. I just don't want people to anticipate a all pro Trey White here right away this year. This injury, it could take him a full year before we see the guy being comfortable back into where he was supposed to be. But God, getting Trey back is a huge benefit at this point.
Oh, yeah. And Matt here, Johnson should never see the field again. Yep. So Jaquan Johnson is officially in my Zach Moss territory.
I'm all out.
I'm all the way out. I've seen everything I need to see. I'm good. I'm 100% good.
Is still a good teams player. Go for it.
Maybe
on special teams.
Yeah, I don't care.
I think he is. But sure. Yeah, they're going to need some safety depth. He's going to be there until we know what's up with Jordan Poyer. I do want to find out.
I'm not calling out Joe Viscalia. Joe does awesome work. He makes a ton of really good predictions. In his 10 things he does every week before, once the inactives come out, he answers 10 questions. One of them was, who is the low-key important player that needs to be re-signed that Bills Mafia is not thinking about? And he said Jaquan Johnson because he has starting potential going forward. No, he doesn't. He is not a starting caliber player in the NFL. His athletic limitations are incredibly evident when he's out on the field. He cannot go sideline to sideline. In the NFL, you have to be able to close the sideline as a safety. He can't do it.
Yeah.
He is not a priority to re-sign. Again, Joe has hit tons of really good predictions. He does a great job. That's not on him, but he's not alone. A lot of people felt that way. I was very anxious about it. Damar Hamlin has done better than I expected. Jaquan Johnson has done exactly what I expected.
I'm going to go ahead and pat myself on the back for calling Damar Hamlin being better than Jaquan Johnson, because I think we would go back to the safety preview. I got a lot of crap for thinking that that Damar, because Jaquan had a really nice summer, right? And that doesn't always translate as we're seeing now. But Damar, I think, is actually, if there was a bright spot on this defense outside of Von Miller and his play today, I think Damar actually had a good game, considering that he was playing with Jaquan Johnson in that backfield. Like, he held things together. There was that huge run by Michael Carter where it was just Hamlin and Carter in open field. And if Hamlin doesn't make that stop, that's like a 70-yard touchdown run. Like, there was a number of plays where he's whiffed on some tackles this year, but today he was by far the best tackler on the Buffalo Bills. He was one of the few guys making legitimate stops on this team. So nice to see him. I just want to see it back with Jordan Poyer here, hopefully by Christmas time or sooner.
So, ultimately I'd like to end on the quote from Josh Allen, which I do agree with, after he said how he played like shit, after he, explained everything else that was going on. He did say, good thing, everything we still want is in front of us. And it is. They still control their own destiny. They're still going to end this week as the number 1 seed. They're controlling all the tiebreakers that are there. They gave up the cushion that they had. They have to win, going forward.
I was going to say, is next week a must win? You can't drop 2 in a row.
Yeah, honestly, it's weird to say. No, it's an NFC game. So, I mean, yes, they need to win.
What if we lose, Miami wins?
Sure, but then when we play Miami, if we win, we still, again, we control our own destiny within the division. If we lose every NFC game the rest of the way and win the AFC games, we'll still be the number 1 seed at 13-4, because we'll win every tiebreaker, and nobody else is going 14-3.
Yeah, but I haven't seen them win any of the AFC East games.
Again, so they control everything in their path forward,
Yep.
and every game is going to feel like a must-win game, and they just need to start reeling off some wins. So
Yeah.
figuring out who wins when, we'll figure that out as we get to it. But they've given up the cushion they had. They've dug themselves an 0-2 hole in the division, and they now need to run the table in the division and win the last 4 that they have left. So
Titans saying they have a ridiculously easy schedule, man, but I thought this was going to be one of the easiest games on it.
Should have been.
So here we
This
are.
is where we thought they were going to start reeling off easy W's.
Yep.
Anything else for the people before we sign off for the day?
No, man, it's going to be a tough week. Try to be easy out there. Try to
be good to each other at least. Be good to each other.
Be good to each other. Be mad. Go be angry. Let it vent. And then reel it back in, and we'll move forward to the Vikings. That's going to be a tough matchup. I'm looking forward to that one. And just kind of take this L and let it sink in. And hopefully we don't have to do too many of these. Lost post game shows. The worst. It's just absolutely worst.
But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I lied. I don't hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this was helpful. I hope that this was therapeutic and cathartic and helped you guys get through here. Go play with your dog. Go hug your kids. Go eat a good meal. Get a good night's sleep. I'd avoid most national media for the week. So, get in some additional exercise, get in some additional, outside time is going to be our last chunk of good weather before things get nasty here. So, enjoy that. And then we'll be back here with you next week, 1:00 against the Minnesota Vikings at home with a very much needed get right game for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
All right. On behalf of Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are